I slammed the door behind me, my hands still shaking from what had just happened. The taste of blood in my mouth reminded me this wasn't a nightmare, it was my reality. My stepfather had actually hit me, and my mother had stood there watching, her arms crossed, saying those 3 words that would haunt me forever. You chose this. The next morning, when someone knocked on my brother's apartment door, I expected it to be a neighbor complaining about the noise from last night. Instead, a man in a cheap suit stood there holding a folder with my name on it, papers for a car loan I'd never signed. But there it was, my signature, or at least what someone wanted to pass off as my signature. If the truth had a voice, it would have whispered in my ear right then, "Someone's been using your name for a long time." My name is Maya Harrow, and this is how I discovered that the people who were supposed to protect me had been stealing from me all along. The evening had started like any other Thursday. I'd gotten home late from my job at HeliaWorks service desk, exhausted from dealing with password resets and printer issues all day. The smell of fried food and stale beer hit me the moment I walked through the door of my mother's house in Redwater's East Side. Rick sat in his recliner, the TV blaring some reality show about repo men, ironic, considering what was about to unfold. He didn't look up when I entered, just grunted and took another pull from his beer. My mother Diana was in the kitchen, banging pots around with more force than necessary. "You're late," she said without turning around. "System crash at work. Had to stay until we got everyone back online." I dropped my bag by the door and headed for the stairs. "Sit down, Maya," Rick's voice cut through the TV noise. Something in his tone made me freeze. I turned slowly. He'd muted the television and was holding a manila folder. My mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel, her face carefully neutral. "We need to talk about the house," Rick said, opening the folder. "And the car." "What about them?" I perched on the edge of the couch, every instinct screaming at me to run. "Times are tight. We need to refinance the house, take out some equity, and I'm getting a new truck." He slid papers across the coffee table. "Need you to co-sign." I looked at the documents, a refinancing application for the house and a loan application for a $45,000 pickup truck. My name was already typed in the co-borrower sections. "I'm not signing that," I said quietly. Rick's jaw tightened. "Excuse me." I said I'm not signing. I can't take on that kind of debt. I'm trying to save up to move out. Maybe go back to school. "You live under my roof," he interrupted, his voice rising. "You eat my food. The least you can do is help out when we need it." "It's not your roof," I shot back before I could stop myself. "Mom bought this house before she even met you." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's knuckles were white as she gripped the dish towel. Rick's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "Diana," he said without taking his eyes off me, "tell your daughter what happens to ungrateful little bitches in this house." My mother said nothing. "Mom," I looked at her, searching for some sign of the woman who used to braid my hair and tell me I could be anything I wanted. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Just sign the papers, Maya," she finally said. "Don't make this difficult." "No," I stood up. "I'm 28 years old. I'm not ruining my credit for—" The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. The force sent me stumbling backward, my hip catching the corner of the coffee table. Pain exploded through my face and side as I hit the floor. "Rick," my mother's voice sounded far away. He loomed over me, his face twisted with rage. "You think you're better than us. Think you're too good to help your family." I tasted copper and realized my lip was bleeding. When I tried to get up, he shoved me back down with his foot. "Stop it," I cried out, but he grabbed my arm and yanked me up, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "Sign the fucking papers," he hissed in my face. His breath reeked of beer and cigarettes. "No." The second hit was a closed fist to my ribs. I doubled over, gasping for air. Through the tears blurring my vision, I saw my mother standing in the doorway between the living room and kitchen. "Mom, please," I wheezed. She turned away. "You chose this, Maya. Just sign the papers and this stops." Rick grabbed a handful of my hair and forced my head up. "Last chance." "Go to hell." I spat blood onto his shirt. What followed was a blur of pain and chaos. He shoved me into the wall, knocking down pictures. Glass shattered. I tried to protect my face and ribs as he grabbed my shoulders and shook me like a rag doll. When I finally broke free and ran for the door, he didn't follow. He just laughed. "Where you gonna go?" he called after me. "You'll be back. They always come back." I grabbed my backpack and jacket and stumbled out into the humid Redwater night. My hands shook so badly I could barely get my phone out of my pocket. There was only one person I could call. Maya. Noah's voice was groggy. "It's almost midnight. Can you come get me?" My voice broke. "Please, I'm at the 7-Eleven on Magnolia." "What happened? Are you okay?" "Just please come." "I'm on my way." I huddled against the side of the building, watching every car that passed, terrified Rick would come looking for me. My face throbbed. My ribs screamed with every breath, and my arm was already starting to swell where he'd grab me. Noah's Honda Civic pulled up 15 minutes later. He took one look at me and his face went pale. "Jesus Christ, Maya, what did he do?" "Can we just go, please?" He helped me into the car. His jaw clenched tight. We drove in silence to his apartment complex on the other side of town. It wasn't until we were inside, doors locked and deadbolted, that he spoke again. "We're calling the police." "Noah." "No arguments. Look at your face." He led me to the bathroom and flicked on the light. I gasped at my reflection. My lip was split and swollen. A bruise was already forming on my left cheekbone. When I lifted my shirt, angry red marks showed where Rick's fist had connected with my ribs. "And we're going to the hospital," Noah added. "You need to get checked out and documented." I sank onto the closed toilet seat, suddenly exhausted. "What's the point? Mom will just take his side. She already did." "Fuck Mom." Noah rarely swore, so it carried weight. "She made her choice. Now you make yours. Do you want to let him get away with this?" I thought about all the times over the past 5 years that Rick had made my life hell. The verbal abuse, the intimidation, the way he'd slowly pushed me to the margins of my own family, and now this actual violence because I wouldn't sign my financial future away. "No," I said quietly. "I don't want him to get away with it." "Then we document everything. We file a report, we get a restraining order, and we make sure he never touches you again." As Noah helped me clean the blood off my face, I made a decision. Rick Halverson had no idea who he was messing with. I might have been the quiet one, the compliant one, the one who never made waves. But I worked in tech support, I solved problems for a living, and Rick, he'd just become a problem that needed solving. The next 2 hours were a blur of harsh hospital lights and gentle nurses. They took photos of every bruise, every cut, every swollen spot. The doctor confirmed bruised ribs, but no breaks. A police officer came and took my statement, his expression growing darker with every detail. "Has he hit you before?" Officer Martinez asked. "No, he's been verbally abusive, controlling, but this is the first time he's gotten physical." "What triggered the altercation?" I explained about the loan documents, how Rick wanted me to co-sign for a truck and help refinance the house. The officer's eyebrows rose. "He assaulted you because you wouldn't co-sign a loan." "That's exactly what happened. My mother was there. She saw everything." "Will she corroborate your statement?" I laughed bitterly. "She told me I chose this by refusing to sign." Officer Martinez made a note. "We'll need to speak with her as well. In the meantime, I'd recommend filing for an emergency protective order. Given the nature of the assault and the financial coercion attempt, you should qualify." It was nearly 4 a.m. when Noah drove me back to his apartment. I collapsed on his couch, too wired to sleep despite my exhaustion. My phone had been buzzing with texts and calls from my mother, but I couldn't bring myself to look at them. "You can stay here as long as you need," Noah said, bringing me a glass of water and some ibuprofen. "Mi casa es tu casa." "Thanks." I swallowed the pills, wincing as the movement pulled at my split lip. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'd figure it out. You always do." He sat in the armchair across from me. "Remember when Dad left? You were the one who figured out how to access the online banking and pay the bills. You were 12. That was different. No, it wasn't. You've always been the problem solver. Maya, the responsible one, and they've been taking advantage of that your whole life. I knew he was right. Even before Rick entered the picture, I'd been the one my mother leaned on. When her credit cards got maxed out, I'd helped her make payment plans. When she couldn't figure out her taxes, I'd learned how to do them. When she brought Rick home 5 years ago and he slowly started taking over everything, I'd bitten my tongue and tried to keep the peace. Not anymore, I said quietly. What? I'm done being the responsible one who never rocks the boat. He put his hands on me, Noah, and Mom just stood there. So what's the plan? I pulled out my phone, ignoring the messages, and opened my note-taking app, even battered and bruised. My mind was starting to work through the problem systematically. First, I need to check my credit report. If Rick was willing to assault me over refusing to co-sign, I'm wondering what else he might have done. Second, I need to get all my important documents out of that house. Third, protective order. Fourth, I paused, thinking. Fourth, I need to dig into Rick's history. This can't be the first time he's done something like this. Noah smiled grimly. There's the sister I know. Want some coffee? Something tells me we're not sleeping tonight. As he headed to the kitchen, I finally looked at the messages from my mother. They were exactly what I expected. Maya, please come home. We can work this out. Rick is sorry. You're overreacting. Don't do anything you'll regret. I deleted them all and blocked her number. Then I opened my laptop and logged into the free credit monitoring service I used. What I found there made my blood run cold. Noah, I called, my voice shaking. You need to see this. He came back with 2 mugs of coffee and looked over my shoulder at the screen. There, in black and white, was a credit inquiry from Maple Ridge Credit Union dated 6 weeks ago, for a car loan, in my name. That son of a bitch, Noah breathed. He already did it. I clicked through to the details, my stomach sinking. A $35,000 loan for a 2018 Ford F-150. The application showed my name, my social security number, my date of birth, but the signature. That's not my signature, I said, zooming in on the document. That's not even close to my signature. Can you prove it? I have my lease agreement from 2 years ago in my cloud storage. Same bank, different loan officer. We can compare the signatures. I pulled up the old document and placed them side by side on the screen. The difference was obvious. My real signature was small and neat, with a distinctive loop in the Y of Maya. The forged one was larger, sloppier, with no loop at all. We need to call the bank as soon as they open, Noah said. This is identity theft. It's more than that. I opened another tab and started searching for information about loan fraud in our state. It's wire fraud if he did it electronically. It's forgery. It's identity theft. And if Mom knew about it? She had to know. A truck that expensive doesn't just appear in the driveway without questions. I thought about the past 6 weeks, trying to remember any signs I'd missed. Rick had seemed more smug than usual. Mom had been avoiding me. And there had been that day I'd come home to find them quickly closing a laptop and shuffling papers off the dining room table. Oh my God, I said suddenly. The refinance. He wasn't trying to get me to co-sign because he needed me to. He was trying to get me to sign because he'd already forged my signature once and needed to cover his tracks. Or he was going for round 2, Noah suggested. Get you on the hook for the house, too. The full implications hit me like another punch to the ribs. This wasn't just about one night of violence. This was systematic financial abuse that had been going on for who knows how long. And my mother, the woman who gave birth to me, had been complicit. I need to make a list, I said, opening a new document. Everything I need to do, everyone I need to contact. Maya, you need to sleep first. You've been through trauma. I can't sleep. My fingers were already flying over the keyboard. Not until I have a plan. Not until I know exactly how deep this goes. Noah sighed but didn't argue. He knew me well enough to know that organizing information was how I processed stress. Some people cried. Some people raged. I made spreadsheets. By the time the sun came up, I had a comprehensive action plan: bank fraud department, credit bureaus, police follow-up, protective order filing, document retrieval, background check on Rick. The list was color-coded by priority and had estimated timeframes for each task. "You terrify me sometimes," Noah said, looking at my screen. "In the best way." "He picked the wrong person to mess with," I replied, saving the document in 3 different places. "He thinks I'm weak because I'm quiet, because I don't fight back, but I've spent 5 years watching him, Noah, learning his patterns, his weaknesses, and now I know exactly where to apply pressure." At 8 a.m. sharp, I called Maple Ridge Credit Union and asked to speak with their fraud department. The representative who answered sounded bored until I explained the situation. "You're saying someone forged your signature on a loan application." "That's exactly what I'm saying. I have documentation showing the signature on file doesn't match my actual signature. I've already filed a police report for assault, and the identity theft is directly related to that incident." Her tone shifted immediately. "I need to transfer you to our Special Investigations Unit. Please hold." 20 minutes and 3 transfers later, I was speaking with David Choi, a senior fraud investigator. "Ms. Harrow, I'm looking at the loan application now. Can you confirm you did not sign this document?" "I absolutely did not. I wasn't even aware the loan existed until I checked my credit report this morning. I see there's been 1 payment made on the loan so far, from a checking account in your name." My heart sank. "I don't have a checking account with Maple Ridge." "According to our records, one was opened the same day as the loan approval." The scope of Rick's fraud was expanding by the minute. I put the phone on speaker so Noah could hear. "Mr. Choi, I need copies of all documentation related to this loan and that checking account. I also need you to freeze everything immediately." "I can initiate a freeze, but I'll need you to come in person with identification and the police report to proceed with the formal fraud claim. Can you come in today?" "I'll be there when you open." After hanging up, I sat back and rubbed my temples. The headache that had been building all night was reaching migraine proportions. "You need to eat something," Noah said, "and take a shower. You can't go to the bank looking like I've been beaten up." I was going to say exhausted, but yeah, he had a point. I showered carefully, wincing as the hot water hit my various bruises. The face in the mirror looked like it belonged to someone else, swollen, discolored, defeated, but the eyes? My eyes were sharp with determination. I dressed in my most professional outfit from the emergency stash of clothes I kept at Noah's. If I was going to war, I needed armor. The Maple Ridge Credit Union branch was a gleaming glass building in Redwater's small downtown district. I walked in at exactly 9 a.m., my folder of documents clutched tight. The teller's smile faltered when she saw my face. "I have an appointment with David Choi," I said. She directed me to a small office in the back where a middle-aged Asian man in a crisp suit was waiting. "Ms. Harrow." He stood and shook my hand, his eyes taking in my injuries without comment. "Please, sit. Let's go through everything." For the next hour, I laid out my case: the forged signature, the assault when I refused to sign more documents, the police report, my real signature on old documents for comparison. David took notes, scanned everything, and pulled up records on his computer. "The loan application was submitted online," he said, frowning at his screen. "From an IP address that traces back to," he paused, "to the physical address listed as your mother's residence. That's where I was living until last night, where my stepfather lives. The checking account was opened online as well. Same IP address. The initial deposit came from another account at our bank, registered to Diana Harrow. My mother, she hadn't just stood by while Rick beat me. She'd actively participated in stealing my identity. I need to see everything, I said quietly. Every document, every transaction, every detail. David printed out a thick stack of papers. As I read through them, the pattern became clear. The checking account had been opened with a $500 deposit from my mother. That money was immediately used as a down payment for the truck. The loan proceeds went into the account. then were withdrawn in cash the same day. The first loan payment had been made from the same account, using money transferred from my mother's account. It was a shell game, using my credit and my name while keeping the actual asset, the truck, in their hands. "This is sophisticated fraud," David said. "Whoever did this knew exactly how to make it look legitimate on paper. My stepfather used to work at a buy here, pay here car lot." I remembered suddenly. He would have known exactly how loan applications work. "That explains a lot. Ms. Harrow, I need to be clear about something. Based on what you've shown me and what our investigation is revealing, the bank will likely pursue criminal charges. This isn't just a matter of reversing the fraud. Someone will likely go to jail." "Good," I said without hesitation. He studied me for a moment. "You're sure, even if it's your mother?" "She watched him beat me because I wouldn't help him commit more fraud. She's been stealing from me, so yes, I'm sure." David nodded and pulled out more forms. "Then let's make this official. I'm initiating a full fraud investigation. The account and loan will be frozen immediately. We'll work with law enforcement to build the criminal case. In the meantime, you'll need to dispute this with all 3 credit bureaus and consider freezing your credit entirely." Already on my list. "You're very organized for someone who just discovered identity theft." "I work in IT support. I troubleshoot problems all day. This is just another problem to solve." We spent another hour going through paperwork. David gave me his direct line and promised to call as soon as they had more information. As I left the bank, I felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The first domino had fallen. My phone rang as I walked to Noah's car. Unknown local number. "Hello. Is this Maya Harrow?" A gravelly male voice. "Who's asking?" "My name's Pete Morrison. I'm a collections agent with First Recovery Services. I'm calling about your past due account with Riverside Medical Group." My blood ran cold. "I don't have an account with Riverside Medical." "Ma'am, I show a balance of $3,847 for emergency room services dated 4 months ago. The account is seriously delinquent." 4 months ago, I'd been working overtime, saving money, definitely not visiting any emergency rooms. "That's not my debt," I said firmly. "I've never been a patient at Riverside Medical. This is another fraudulent account." "Ma'am, I have your social security number, date of birth, which can all be stolen. I'm in the middle of filing fraud reports right now. Please send me all documentation you have to." I gave him Noah's address. "And do not call me again." I hung up and immediately called the medical group's billing department. After being transferred multiple times, I finally reached someone who could help. "I show an emergency room visit on January 15th, the representative said. "Patient came in with a laceration requiring stitches. Insurance information was provided, but the claim was denied." "What insurance information?" She read off policy numbers I didn't recognize from a company I'd never used. "Can you tell me what name the patient gave?" "The registration shows Maya Harrow." "And did this Maya Harrow provide identification?" The notes indicate the patient said their wallet was stolen in the incident that caused the injury. They provided verbal information only." "Of course. I need all records from that visit sent to me immediately. This is medical identity theft." After another round of forms and explanations, I had another piece of the puzzle. Rick had used my information to get medical treatment he couldn't afford. The bills had been piling up for months, destroying my credit in the process. Noah was waiting in the car, engine running. "How bad?" "Worse than we thought. He's been using my identity for months. Medical debt, too." "Jesus!" He pulled out into traffic. "Where to now?" "Police station. I need to update my report. Then the courthouse for the protective order. Then," I paused, thinking, "then I need to go back to the house." "Maya, no." "I need my documents. Birth certificate, social security card, passport. He has access to all of it as long as it's in that house. Then we go together, and we go when he's at work." Rick worked construction, which meant he left the house by 6 a.m. most days. Mom worked retail and didn't start until noon. If we timed it right, we'd have a window. The police station was an exercise in patience. Officer Martinez had gone off shift. so I had to explain everything again to Detective Sarah Coleman. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who took notes in shorthand and asked pointed questions. "You believe your stepfather has been systematically stealing your identity." "I don't believe it. I know it. I have proof from the bank and the medical group." "And your mother?" "She's complicit at minimum. The bank records show money moving from her accounts to the fraudulent ones in my name." Detective Coleman leaned back in her chair. "Ms. Harrow, I'm going to be frank with you. Domestic violence cases with financial fraud components can be complex, especially when family members are involved. Are you prepared for this to potentially destroy your relationship with your mother permanently? She destroyed it when she watched him hurt me and blamed me for it." "Fair enough. I'm going to coordinate with the fraud investigators at Maple Ridge and see what else we can uncover. In the meantime, that protective order is critical. Judge Harrison is hearing emergency petitions today. Get over there before noon." The courthouse was old, all marble and dark wood, and the smell of decades of human drama. I found the clerk's office and filled out the petition for a protective order, detailing the assault and the ongoing fraud. My hand only shook a little as I wrote. Judge Harrison was a stern woman with steel-gray hair who read my petition with a deepening frown. "Mr. Halverson struck you because you refused to co-sign loans." "Yes, Your Honor." "And you've discovered he's already fraudulently used your identity." "Yes, Your Honor, multiple times." "Petition granted," she signed with a flourish. "This emergency order is effective immediately and valid for 21 days. A hearing for a permanent order will be scheduled within that time frame. Mr. Halverson is prohibited from coming within 500 feet of you, your residence, or your place of employment. He is also prohibited from contacting you directly or indirectly." "Thank you, Your Honor." "Ms. Harrow." I turned back. "Be careful. Financial abusers often escalate when their victims fight back." Her warning echoed in my mind as Noah and I drove to my mother's house the next morning. We'd waited until 7 a.m. to be sure Rick was gone. The street was quiet. Ordinary suburban homes with ordinary people living ordinary lives. No one would guess at the drama behind the faded blue siding of 4782 Oak Street. "His truck's gone," Noah confirmed. Mom's sedan was still in the driveway. "Let's be quick." I still had my key. The house was quiet. Morning light filtering through the kitchen windows. Everything looked so normal, the coffee maker still gurgling. Mom's crossword puzzle half finished on the table. If not for my bruised face and the protective order in my pocket, I could almost pretend nothing had changed. "Maya." I froze at the sound of my mother's voice. She stood in the hallway, still in her robe, looking older than her 53 years. "I'm just getting my things," I said, not meeting her eyes. "Baby, please, can we talk?" "There's nothing to talk about." I headed for my room, Noah close behind. She followed us. "I didn't think he'd actually hurt you. He was just so angry about the money." "The money he stole using my name." I spun to face her. "Did you know? Mom, did you know about the truck loan, the medical bills?" Her silence was answer enough. "My God," I laughed, but there was no humor in it. How long have you been helping him steal from me?" "It wasn't stealing," she protested. "We were going to pay it all back. He just needed help getting back on his feet after his business failed. By destroying my credit by committing fraud." "You don't understand what it's like," she said, tears starting to fall. "Being my age, alone, with no retirement savings, Rick takes care of me. With money stolen in my name." I pushed past her into my room and started grabbing important papers from my filing cabinet. Birth certificate, social security card, passport, tax returns, everything I could think of. Noah found a box and we started packing. "Maya, please." Mom hovered in the doorway. "Don't do this. Don't tear our family apart." "I didn't tear anything apart. You did that when you chose him over me. When you watched him hit me and told me I deserved it." "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." I sealed the box and faced her. "You meant every word. Because as long as I was the one paying the price for Rick's schemes, you were fine with it. Well, I'm done paying." "What are you going to do?" What I should have done months ago. I'm pressing charges against both of you. Her face went white. You can't, Maya. I'm your mother. No, a mother protects her children. You fed me to the wolves. I picked up the box and walked out. Noah beside me. Mom followed us to the door, pleading, crying, but I didn't look back. It wasn't until we were in the car that I realized I was crying too. You okay? Noah asked gently. No, but I will be. We drove back to his apartment in silence. I spent the rest of the day contacting credit bureaus, freezing my credit, filing disputes. Each phone call revealed more damage. Store credit cards I'd never opened. Utility accounts in cities I'd never lived in. The scope was staggering. By evening, I'd compiled a list of over $50,000 in fraudulent debt. My credit score had dropped 200 points. Years of careful financial management destroyed by the two people who should have protected me. You need to eat, Noah said, setting a plate of pasta in front of me. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You need strength for what's coming. He was right. The emergency protective order was just the beginning. There would be court dates, testimonies, investigations. Rick wouldn't go down without a fight. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Against my better judgment, I answered. You fucking bitch. Rick's voice was slurred, angry. You think you're smart. Getting a restraining order, you just made things worse for yourself. You're violating the protective order by calling me, I said calmly, putting him on speaker so Noah could hear. I'm recording this call. I don't give a fuck what you're recording. You're going to drop this bullshit right now, or what? Rick, you'll hit me again. Steal more money. I'm done being afraid of you. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Actually, I do. That's why I went to the police. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts. I hung up and immediately called Detective Coleman to report the violation. Another charge to add to his growing list. That night, I barely slept. Every noise made me jump. Certain Rick had found Noah's address. But morning came without incident. Detective Coleman called at 8 a.m. We picked up Halverson an hour ago for violating the protective order. He's being held pending a bail hearing. Thought you should know. Thank you. There's more. We executed a search warrant at the residence. Found some interesting documents. Looks like this isn't his first rodeo with identity theft. My pulse quickened. What do you mean? Can you come to the station? There are some things you need to see. I was there within an hour. Detective Coleman led me to a small conference room where boxes of documents covered the table. We found these in a locked file cabinet in the garage, she explained. Credit applications, medical forms, insurance documents, all in different names. I picked up a loan application. The name read Jennifer Watts, but the handwriting looked familiar. Another showed the name Bradley Thompson. Who are these people? From what we can tell, previous romantic partners of Mr. Halverson. We're tracking them down now, but it appears he's been running this scam for years, moving from relationship to relationship, gaining access to personal information, then using it for financial gain. Oh my God! I sank into a chair. How many victims? At least 6 that we've found so far. You're the first one to press charges. I thought about all those people. Their credit destroyed, their trust betrayed, just like me. There's something else, Detective Coleman said. We found evidence that your mother was involved in the previous frauds as well. Looks like they've been partners in this for longer than their relationship. The room spun. What? She showed me bank records, phone records, a paper trail going back 7 years. My mother hadn't been a victim caught up in Rick's schemes. She'd been an active participant, helping him target vulnerable people, including her own daughter. I think I'm going to be sick, I managed. Take your time. I know this is a lot to process. But I didn't have time. Every minute that passed was another minute Rick and my mother had to hide assets, destroy evidence, or plan their next move. I needed to be smarter, faster, more ruthless than they were. What do you need from me? I asked. Everything, every document you have, every conversation you remember, every detail that might help us build the case. We're looking at multiple federal charges now: wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, identity theft. This is big, Ms. Harrow. I spent the next 3 days practically living at the police station, going through documents, providing context, helping build the case. Noah brought me changes of clothes and forced me to eat occasionally. The protective order meant I could work without looking over my shoulder, at least temporarily. On day 4, David Choi from Maple Ridge Credit Union called with an update. We've completed our initial investigation. The fraud is extensive, but we have good news. Given the evidence of identity theft and your cooperation, we're reversing all fraudulent transactions. The loan will be removed from your credit report entirely. Thank God. It was the first good news I'd had all week. There's more. Our legal department wants to know if you're planning to pursue civil action against Mr. Halverson and Ms. Harrow. We'd like to coordinate, maybe file jointly. A civil suit on top of criminal charges. It would mean more court dates, more stress, more time spent reliving this nightmare, but it also meant hitting them where it hurt most: their wallets. Yes, I said without hesitation. I want them to pay for every penny they stole, plus damages. I'll have our lawyers contact you, Ms. Harrow. I'm sorry this happened to you, but I admire how you're handling it. Most people don't fight back like this. Most people probably hadn't spent years watching their abuser, learning their weaknesses, waiting for the right moment to strike back. But I had. Even if I hadn't realized it at the time. That afternoon, I returned to Noah's apartment to find him pacing the living room, phone pressed to his ear. "She just walked in," he said. "Yeah, I'll tell her." He hung up and turned to me with a strange expression. That was Marcus Trent. "Who?" "He says he used to work with Rick, saw the arrest in the paper and wants to talk to you. Says he has information about Rick's past that might help your case." My instincts prickled. "Did he leave a number?" "He wants to meet in person, tonight, at the diner on 5th Street, public place, lots of witnesses." I weighed the risks. Meeting with someone connected to Rick could be dangerous, but if he had information that could strengthen the case... "I'll go," I decided. "But you're coming with me." Obviously. The Starlight Diner was a throwback to the 1950s. All chrome and neon and red vinyl booths. Marcus Trent was easy to spot, a weathered man in his 60s, wearing a faded Carhartt jacket, nursing a cup of coffee in a corner booth. "Ms. Harrow." He stood as we approached, extending a calloused hand. "Thanks for coming. This is... my brother Noah." "Good, good. Glad you didn't come alone." He gestured for us to sit. "I'll cut right to it. I worked with Rick at Prestige Motors, that buy here, pay here lot over in Millbrook. This was about 8 years ago." "Okay." Rick was the finance manager, real smooth talker, could get anyone approved for a loan, but there were irregularities. I leaned forward. "What kind of irregularities?" "People would come in, fill out applications, get approved, normal stuff. But then we'd get calls weeks later from folks saying they never applied for a loan, never bought a car. Their signatures were on the paperwork, but they swore they'd never been to our lot. He was forging applications. That's what I figured. But here's the thing, he wasn't keeping the cars. He'd process the loans, pocket the down payments, then the cars would disappear. When people complained, he'd claim they were lying, trying to get out of their obligations. Most gave up rather than fight it." "Did you report him?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I needed the job, had kids to feed, but I started keeping copies of things, just in case, when the lot finally went under surprise. Surprise, I held on to them." He pulled out a manila envelope and slid it across the table. Inside were photocopies of loan applications, delivery receipts, correspondence, names I didn't recognize, but the pattern was familiar. "Why are you giving me this now?" I asked. "Because I heard what he did to you, and because..." He hesitated. "Because one of those names in there, Jennifer Watts, that was my niece. She killed herself 3 years ago. Financial stress was a big factor. When I saw Rick's name in the paper, saw he was still running the same games, I couldn't stay quiet anymore." The weight of his words settled over the table. Jennifer Watts, one of the names Detective Coleman had found in Rick's files. "I'm sorry about your niece," I said quietly. "Make him pay," Marcus said, standing. "For Jenny, for you, for all of us he's hurt." He left without ordering food. Noah and I sat in silence for a moment, the envelope between us like a loaded weapon. "This changes everything," Noah finally said. He was right. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about a pattern of abuse spanning years, possibly decades. How many people had suffered in silence? How many had their lives destroyed by Rick's greed? "We need to get this to Detective Coleman tonight," I said. But first, I had a stop to make. The Riverside Medical Group billing office was closing when I arrived, but I'd called ahead. Sheila, the billing supervisor, was waiting with a stack of papers. "I've never seen anything like this," she said, shaking her head. "The person who came in claiming to be you, they knew everything. Social security number, date of birth, mother's maiden name, but looking at the intake forms now, the handwriting." She showed me the forms. The signature was different from both my real one and the forgery on the bank loan, but certain letters looked familiar. "Can I see the insurance information they provided?" She pulled up the screen. The policy was with Harbinger Mutual, a cut-rate company I'd never heard of, but the policyholder's name made me gasp. Diana Harrow. My mother had provided her insurance information for Rick's medical treatment, then used my identity when it was rejected. "Are you okay?" Sheila asked, noticing my shock. "I'm processing. Can I get copies of everything?" "Already prepared. And Ms. Harrow, we're reversing all charges and removing this from your record. We should have verified identity more carefully." Another piece of evidence, another nail in their coffin. I was building a case so airtight that no lawyer could save them. Detective Coleman was still at the station when I arrived with Marcus's envelope and the medical records. She looked tired but perked up when she saw what I had. "This is gold," she said, flipping through Marcus's documents. "Establishes pattern of behavior going back years, and the medical fraud with your mother's insurance. That's conspiracy right there." "What happens next?" "We present everything to the DA tomorrow, with what we have. I expect they'll file formal charges immediately, multiple counts for both of them. Both of them are still in custody. Your mother was arrested this afternoon. She's being held on $50,000 bail." I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The mother I'd once loved was gone, replaced by a stranger who'd sold me out for a man who treated us both like ATMs. That night, I finally slept well. Rick and Mom were in jail. The protective order was in place. The fraudulent debts were being reversed. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. The feeling lasted exactly until my phone rang at 6 a.m. "Maya?" Noah's voice was tense. "You need to see the news." I turned on the local morning show. There was my mother's tearful face filling the screen. "Just a misunderstanding," she was saying. "My daughter has mental health issues. She's been unstable since her father left. Rick and I were only trying to help her, and she's turned it into this witch hunt." The reporter nodded sympathetically. "So you deny all the charges?" "Absolutely. Maya has always been troubled. We've tried to get her help, but she refuses. Now she's making these wild accusations because we wouldn't give her money for drugs." I stared at the screen in disbelief. Mental health issues. Drugs. I'd never touched anything stronger than ibuprofen in my life. "That lying bitch," Noah snarled. "How is she out?" I grabbed my phone and called Detective Coleman. "Someone posted her bail late last night," the detective explained. "We can't control what she says to the media. But don't worry. This won't affect the case. We have evidence." But the damage was done. My phone started ringing with calls from coworkers, distant relatives, high school acquaintances who'd seen the news. I turned it off and focused on damage control. "I need to respond," I said to Noah. "Set the record straight." "No," he grabbed my shoulders. "That's what she wants. You engage with this. It becomes he said, she said. Let the evidence speak for itself." He was right, but it was hard. My mother had taken our private pain and splashed it across the morning news, painting me as a mentally ill drug addict. The violation felt almost worse than Rick's fists. I went to work anyway, ignoring the stares and whispers. My manager, Deb, called me into her office. "I saw the news," she said without preamble. "I don't believe a word of it." "Thanks." I slumped in my chair. "It's been a hell of a week. Take some time if you need it. We've got your back here. Actually, I need to work. Need something normal while everything else falls apart." She studied me with shrewd eyes. "All right, but if it gets to be too much, you tell me. And Maya. For what it's worth, I've met your mother. She's the one who seemed unstable, not you." Small comfort, but I'd take what I could get. The day passed in a blur of password resets and printer errors. Normal problems with simple solutions. So different from the mess of my personal life. I was packing up to leave when my desk phone rang. Internal number. "HeliaWorks service desk. This is Maya." "Maya. It's Tom from legal. Can you come up to the 5th floor? There's something you need to see." My stomach dropped. Had my mother's accusations reached corporate? Was I about to be fired? Tom Winters was waiting in a small conference room, a laptop open in front of him. "Sit," he said, not unkindly. "I need to show you something." He turned the laptop toward me. On screen was a job application dated 2 years ago. My job application, except it wasn't. "This came through our standard background check renewal process," Tom explained. "The signature flagged as inconsistent with your other documents." I stared at the application. It was my information, my work history. But the signature was wrong. The same wrong signature from the truck loan. "This isn't mine," I said numbly. "I never filled this out." "I believe you. The question is, who did, and why?" My mind raced. 2 years ago. I'd been working at a different company. I'd never applied to HeliaWorks, but somehow, I'd been hired. Working here for, Oh my God. The pieces clicked. "I need to check something." Maya. My pay stubs. I direct deposit. Never really look closely. But what if? Tom pulled up my employee records. Everything looked normal until we got to the direct deposit information. The account number didn't match any of my accounts. "Someone's been stealing my paychecks," I whispered. "For 2 years, Tom confirmed. "Maya, do you have any idea who would do this?" I laughed bitterly. "Yeah, my mother and stepfather. They've been living off my income while I thought I was unemployed. I've been living at home, thinking I couldn't find work, and they've been collecting my salary this entire time. I've never seen anything like this." "Join the club. Can you print everything I need to add this to the police report?" "Maya, this is major corporate fraud. We'll need to involve the FBI." "The FBI, because apparently, local police and state charges weren't enough. My mother and Rick had committed federal crimes spanning years." I left the office in a daze. 2 years? I'd been working for 2 years without knowing it. Living at home because I thought I couldn't afford my own place. While they collected my paychecks. Noah was waiting in the parking lot. One look at my face and he knew something major had happened. "What now?" he asked. I told him everything. His knuckles went white on the steering wheel. "I'm going to kill them," he said quietly. "I'm actually going to kill them." "No, we're going to destroy them legally, thoroughly, completely." "How are you so calm?" "Because I'm done being their victim. Every new thing they've done just adds to their sentences. At this point, they're looking at decades in prison." My phone buzzed. "Detective Coleman." "Maya, where are you? We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Rick made bail, and we can't find him." The world tilted. "What do you mean you can't find him?" "He was released an hour ago. Supposed to go straight to his bail bondsman's office. Never showed. His truck's gone, and your mother's not answering her phone." "They're running." "We've put out a bolo. Every agency in the state is looking for them. But Maya, you need to be somewhere safe. If they're desperate enough to run." They were desperate enough to do anything, including coming after the person who'd exposed them. "I'll go to a hotel," I said. "Somewhere they won't think to look." "Good. Keep your phone on. Check in every few hours." Noah drove us to a budget motel on the outskirts of town. Paying cash, registering under his name. We barricaded ourselves in a room that smelled of old smoke and desperation. "This is insane," Noah said, checking the locks for the third time. "We're hiding like criminals while they're the ones who—" His phone rang. Unknown number. "Don't answer," I warned. But he'd already swiped. "Hello." I couldn't hear the other side, but I saw his face change. "Where?" he asked. "No, I'll come alone." A pause. "I said I'll come alone." He hung up and looked at me. "That was Mom. She wants to meet. Says she'll tell me where Rick is if I come alone." It's a trap. Obviously. But what if it's not? What if she really wants to turn him in? "Noah, no. We called Detective Coleman. Let the police handle it. She said if she sees cops, she runs. This might be our only chance." We argued for 20 minutes. In the end, I couldn't stop him. He left me the car keys and his backup phone. "If I'm not back in 2 hours, call everyone," he said. "Noah, I'll be fine. She's still our mother. Maya. Whatever else she's done, she won't hurt me." But she'd already hurt me, and I was her daughter too. I paced the motel room like a caged animal. 30 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes. I was reaching for the backup phone when it rang. "Noah." "Try again, bitch." Rick's voice turned my blood to ice. "Where's my brother?" "He's fine, for now. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to call your detective friend and recant everything. Say you lied, made it all up. Then you're going to wire me $50,000 for my trouble." "I don't have $50,000. You stole it all, remember?" "Figure it out. You've got 6 hours. And Maya, your brother's got a real pretty face. Be a shame if something happened to it." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. Call Detective Coleman. Follow Rick's demands. Neither option guaranteed Noah's safety. Then I remembered something. My laptop was in Noah's car, and I'd set up Find My Phone on his devices months ago when he kept misplacing them. I booted up the laptop and logged into the tracking app. Noah's phone showed as active, the little dot blinking in an industrial area on the south side of town. Wagner Industrial Park. I knew the place abandoned warehouses and failed businesses. I should call the police. That was the smart play. But Rick had Noah, and every minute counted. I grabbed the car keys and my phone, then paused. If I was walking into a trap, I needed insurance. I started a video recording on my phone, explaining everything, where I was going and why, what had happened. If something went wrong, at least there'd be evidence. Then I called Detective Coleman. "Maya, thank God. Where are you?" "They have Noah," I said, pulling out of the motel parking lot. "Rick called. He wants me to recant everything and pay him $50,000. "Where are you going, Maya? Don't—" "Wagner Industrial Park, Building 47. I've got Noah's phone tracked there." "Do not go there alone. We're mobilizing units now." "He's got my brother." "And if you get yourself killed, that won't help anyone. Maya, please, let us handle this." I thought about Noah, about all the times he'd been there for me, the only family I had left who actually cared. "I'll wait for backup," I lied. "But hurry." I hung up and pressed harder on the accelerator. The industrial park loomed in the darkness. Skeletal buildings against the night sky. Building 47 was at the back, isolated, dark except for a single light in an upper window. I parked a block away and crept closer on foot. The main door was ajar. Darkness beyond. Every instinct screamed danger, but Noah was in there. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The warehouse was cavernous, filled with shadows and the smell of rust and oil. Debris crunched under my feet as I made my way toward a dim light in the back. "Maya, no." Noah's voice, from above. I looked up to see him tied to a chair on a metal catwalk. Rick standing behind him. "Well, well," Rick said. "The prodigal daughter returns." "Let him go. Rick, this is between you and me." "No, this is between me and my money. Money you cost me with your little tantrum." "Tantrum, you beat me." "You deserved it." He moved closer to Noah, something glinting in his hand. A knife. Just like you'll deserve this if you don't fix what you broke. Maya, get out of here. Noah struggled against his bonds. Shut up, Rick backhanded him casually. Your sister and I are negotiating. Movement to my left. My mother emerged from the shadows, looking haggard and desperate. Maya, please, she said. Just do what he wants. Tell them you lied. We can all walk away from this. Walk away. You stole 2 years of my life. You've been cashing my paychecks while I thought I was unemployed. Her face went white. How did you? Helia Works figured it out. The FBI is involved now. Mom, it's over. You stupid little bitch. Rick's voice was deadly calm. You just had to keep pushing, didn't you? Couldn't leave well enough alone. You mean, couldn't let you keep stealing from me, destroying my credit, my future. What future? He laughed bitterly. You think you're better than us? You're nothing. A help desk drone who can't even keep a man. At least your mother knew her place. Her place. I looked at my mother. Is that what you want to be? His accomplice? His punching bag when the money runs out. Don't listen to her, baby, Rick said to my mother. She's trying to turn us against each other. But I saw doubt flicker in her eyes. For the first time in years, my mother was seeing him clearly. Mom, I said softly, how many times has he hurt you? How many times have you covered bruises with makeup, hidden cuts with long sleeves? Shut up, Rick roared. Is this really the life you want? Looking over your shoulder forever? Because that's what's waiting if you run. You'll never stop running. Diana, don't listen to her. Mom, please, it's not too late. Help me save Noah. Help me end this. She looked between us, tears streaming down her face. I can't. Yes, you can. You're stronger than you think. You raised 2 kids alone before him. You can do the right thing now. Diana. Rick's voice was sharp with warning. She took a shuddering breath, then another, and then she pulled something from her pocket, Rick's car keys, and threw them off the catwalk. They clattered into the darkness below. You bitch! Rick spun toward her, knife raised. That's when I heard them. Sirens, getting closer. Rick heard them too, his face contorted with rage as he turned back to Noah. If I'm going down, I'm taking him with me. No. Everything happened at once. Rick raised the knife. My mother grabbed his arm. They struggled on the narrow catwalk, the knife between them. Noah's chair tipped, balanced precariously on the edge. I ran for the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. Behind me, the warehouse door burst open, police flooding in. Drop the weapon, Detective Coleman's voice echoed. I reached the catwalk as Rick shoved my mother aside. She hit the railing hard, crying out. The knife skittered across the metal grating. Rick lunged for Noah's chair, ready to push it over the edge, 30 feet to the concrete below. I didn't think, I just moved, grabbed the back of the chair and pulled with all my strength. Rick's momentum carried him forward, and for a moment we all teetered on the edge. Rick, Noah, me, gravity fighting for dominance. Then training kicked in. All those ergonomics lessons about proper lifting, bend the knees, use core strength. I planted my feet and yanked backward. Noah's chair scraped across the catwalk toward safety. Rick, overbalanced, grabbed for the railing, missed. He fell. The sound he made hitting the concrete was wet and final. Nobody move. Police swarmed the catwalk, weapons drawn. I raised my hands, still gripping Noah's chair. I'm Maya Harrow. This is my brother. We're the victims. Detective Coleman appeared, took in the scene, and lowered her weapon. Get the paramedics up here, now. As officers cut Noah free, I looked down at the warehouse floor. Rick wasn't moving. A dark pool spread beneath him. Is he? I couldn't finish the question. Paramedics will determine that, Coleman said. Are you hurt? I'm okay. My voice sounded strange, distant. Noah. I'm good. He rubbed his wrists where the ropes had cut in. Maya, you saved my life. Actually, my mother's voice was weak but clear. We both did. She was sitting against the wall, holding her ribs where she'd hit the railing. For a moment, Our eyes met. I saw regret, shame, and something that might have been pride.
Why? I asked her.
Because, she said quietly, I finally remembered which one of you is my child. The aftermath was chaos. Paramedics confirmed what we already knew: Rick was dead. My mother was arrested but immediately taken to the hospital for her injuries. Noah and I were separated for questioning, spending hours recounting every detail. It was dawn by the time Detective Coleman drove me back to the motel. You should have waited for backup, she said. I know. But I understand why you didn't, for what it's worth. You probably saved your brother's life. Rick Halverson had nothing left to lose. What happens to my mother now? She'll be charged, but her cooperation tonight will factor in. The DA might offer a plea deal. She'll do time, but probably not as much as she would have. And the money, the identity theft. With Halverson dead, recovering assets will be complicated, but you have a strong civil case against his estate, and the criminal charges against your mother still stand. Justice doesn't always look like what we expect, Maya, but you got it. She was right. Rick would never hurt anyone again. My mother would face consequences for her choices. The fraudulent debts were being erased. My credit would recover. It wasn't perfect, but it was justice. Noah was waiting at the motel, pacing the parking lot. He grabbed me in a bear hug the moment I got out of the car. Don't ever do that again, he said into my hair. Which part? Fighting back. Saving your life. Taking down a crime ring. All of it. Any of it. He pulled back to look at me. You're terrifying. You know that. I learned from the best. Remember when you taught me to stand up to bullies in middle school? I meant with words, not by pulling them off catwalks. We went inside and collapsed on the beds, exhausted but unable to sleep. The adrenaline was still coursing through our veins. What now? Noah asked. Now I rebuild, get my life back, actually cash my own paychecks for once. You're really going to work today? I thought about it. Yeah, I think I am. I need something normal. He shook his head but smiled. Only you would consider tech support normal after all this. But it was normal, beautifully, blissfully normal. And after the week I'd had, normal sounded perfect. 6 months later, I stood in a courtroom watching my mother be sentenced to 3 years in prison with possibility of parole in 18 months. She looked smaller in her orange jumpsuit, older. When they led her away, she mouthed, "I'm sorry" to me. I nodded. I wasn't ready to forgive, might never be, but I acknowledged her apology. The civil suit against Rick's estate was settled out of court. His secret accounts held more stolen money than we'd imagined, not just from me, but from his previous victims. The court-appointed executor distributed it according to documented losses. I received enough to cover my stolen wages and then some. I used the money to go back to school, finally finishing my computer science degree. Helia Works promoted me to senior IT specialist and gave me back pay for the 2 years I'd worked without knowing. My credit score slowly climbed back up. Noah and I moved into a house together, a little place with good locks and a security system. We hosted dinner every Sunday, building our own family with friends who'd supported us through the ordeal. Detective Coleman stopped by one evening with news. Remember Jennifer Watts Marcus's niece? Of course. Her case helped us identify 12 more victims across 3 states. The task force you helped create has recovered over $2 million in stolen assets. You did that. Maya, your refusal to be silent started all this. I just wanted him to stop hitting me, I said quietly. And in standing up for yourself, you stood up for all of them. That's something to be proud of. After she left, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. My ribs had healed. The bruises faded. The nightmares came less frequently. But the strength I'd found that night, the power to say no, to fight back, to refuse to be a victim that stayed. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Hi, Maya. My name is Grace Chen. Detective Coleman gave me your number. My ex-husband has been stealing my identity and I don't know what to do. Can we talk? I smiled and typed back, Of course. Let's meet tomorrow. And Grace, you're stronger than you know. Because if I'd learned anything from this ordeal, it was that we're all stronger than we know. Sometimes it just takes someone pushing us too far to discover it. And when we do, when we finally fight back, that's when we become unstoppable. The end. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I know it was intense, but these situations happen more often than we realize. If you're going through something similar, please know you're not alone and there is help available. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment and let me know what city or country you're in so we can connect and share our thoughts about the story. If this resonated with you or you think it might help someone else, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button. And if you really want to help this story reach more people who might need to hear it, hit that hype button. It really helps the video get seen by more viewers. Stay strong, everyone. Your story matters.